out in the cappuccino room that would like to join us, come on in whenever you're ready and take a seat. So, my name is Ken Drew. I'm the treasurer of the organization, and this is a presentation which has been put together by the investment committee, and we'll try to cover some basic information about our investments, and then there will be a Q&A period if anyone has any specific questions about our investments. I'm going to proceed to the next slide. Am I? Yes, there we go. Here's an agenda for today's presentation. So we're going to be looking at the source of our investment funds. We'll take a look at the purpose and the composition of our investment portfolio, some of the historical performance, and some of the shared actions that we have with our investment manager. And then finally, we'll take a look at the negative impact of deficit spending on our investments because, as many of you know, our congregation has been operating under a deficit budget for a few years, and we draw funds out of our investment so that we can fund our deficit, and that does have an effect on our total investment portfolio. So we'll take a look at that at the end of the presentation, and then a Q&A period. So moving on, the source of our investment funds is pretty much all out of our original building, which was on Hiawatha, down in Little India part of town. And we owned that building for about 20 years. And during that time, it appreciated quite a bit in value. We sold that building, and the proceeds from that sale formed the core of our investment portfolio. There is a small component which was a bequeathment to us from Bob Rafos and Sandy Rafos. This hall is named after them. And they left us some money from their estate when they passed, and those funds are part of our investment portfolio, but they are not unrestricted funds as the amount that came out of our building sale is. They are restricted funds. There's a purpose for our endowment fund from the Rafos family, and that purpose is for the enrichment of the congregation. So it's a fairly broad restriction. Nonetheless, it is what we call restricted funds.
Could you, for the lay people out here, could you differentiate between restricted and unrestricted?
Yes, the unrestricted funds essentially means that we don't have any limitations on how we use those funds. So we can use it, for instance, to fund our deficit, which is one of the things we do. We can use it to pay for our rental here at the space at 310 Danforth. Restricted funds means that there are limitations on what we can do with that money. And in the case of the Rafos Fund, that limitation is that the money must be used for the enrichment of the congregation. So you could call it the beautification of the congregation. We've used those endowment funds to do some of the decorating in our space, for instance. And when those funds were originally bequeathed to us, we used a large component of those funds to pay off some of the debt that we had, some of the private debt that we had incurred so that we could purchase the property that we had over on Hiawatha. So those were all activities that were deemed to be enrichment of the congregation.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Right, so that's the source of our investment funds. We started with $3.675 million, and we did use some of those funds to renovate this space. I believe it was $250,000. It might have been up to $500,000. I can't remember the exact amount. 300,000. Thank you, Allison. And we are required to primarily use our investment funds to pay for this space that we're in right now, to pay for it in perpetuity, so that we are always able to have a home, and we use approximately about $145,000 a year just to pay for this space. As it says on the slide, funds were also used to renovate this space before we moved in. We've been withdrawing money from the investments to fund our operating deficit, as I mentioned at the outset. I believe we've been doing that since 2023. We might have started earlier than that. Still, it's something we've been doing for some years now. In 2025, the budgeted withdrawals from our investment funds have been $10,000 a month. VCIM, it says there, that's for our investment fund manager, Van City Investment Management. And we've also, this year, taken $90,000 out of our GICs. And those are the funds we're using to fund our deficit. So the portfolio is composed of two main blocks of investments. The largest of those blocks are socially responsible investments using pooled funds or mutual funds. You might know them as mutual funds. And these are funds that are managed through our investment manager, Van City Investment Management. And we have three funds at the moment in that portfolio. There's a Canadian equity fund, there is a global equity fund, and then there's a balanced fund, which is a balance between income earning investments that bring in some dividends, for instance, and also some equity. The second component of our investment portfolio is our guaranteed investment certificates. And we are using a laddered approach at the moment. So we have a number of different GICs that have 1, 2, or 3-year terms on them so that those funds can be accessible to us in the medium term. And we call these blocks of investments, one of them is our long-term block. That's our funds with Van City Investment Management. And then the guaranteed investment certificates are our mid-term investments. Or you could call them short-term, but when I look at the fact that we have 3 years in there, that's more of a midterm. So here is a chart that shows the different investments and how they have performed since last year. Stephen Collar, and Tony Rappaport. John Whitehead is with us on Zoom. And then we also have both Prakash and Joanne as investment committee members who are always able to provide good insight and good counsel to the committee. So we're very lucky to have a good, strong investment committee. And we're always looking for more people. So if any of this is interesting to you and you'd like to find out more about investing, one of the jobs of the investment committee is around education. So we're not just simply trying to manage neighborhoods investments. We're also trying to teach congregations about investing so that you can take that knowledge home with you. You can invest your own money, make a lot of money, and donate more to neighborhood. So, so please come and join the committee. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now, we do have some time for questions, so I would invite you to share any questions you have and use the microphone so that John, who's with us on Zoom, can hear.
Oh, there we are. Now I can hear myself. I thought I'd lob a softball towards you, seeing as how it's baseball season. But Van City certainly represents a lot of other investors as well as neighborhood, and we've seen that they can exert some influence by having communication with these stocks, these companies. Would it get to the point where these companies are failing to meet the environmental criteria, social environmental criteria, that they would cut bait completely on some companies? Has that been done?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Would Van City come to the point where they would just stop investing in a company after consultations that don't work?
That's a good question, yes. So that is called divestment instead of investment. And we have seen that happen with our Van City investment managers. We had investment in a company called WSP Global, and that company had a subsidiary which they acquired in recent years that is running a light rail project in Jerusalem. And part of that light rail project passes through occupied territories. And so Van City went to meet with them and tell them this is a problem. And WSP Global informed Van City that yes, we are aware of this, and we know that this is a problem under the United Nations Human Rights Council. And we have no plans to change any of this. So, because of that, Van City divested from WSP Global and removed them from all of their investment pools. So this happened, I believe, about 2 years ago, and it is an ongoing practice of theirs to carefully monitor the investments in their portfolio and where situations conflict with the values and the mission of Van City, and also the wide range of different investors, then they will take action. And that's very encouraging from our perspective, because it means that they walk the talk. They don't just say a bunch of things and use that as marketing copy. They actually live their values, and that's what we want to see from our investment manager. We have a question from David.
Yeah, thanks. I noticed when you were putting together you were saying that we should be able to draw at least 4% each year, and that would cover our rental costs. Yet we're operating more at like 8%. What are some of the examples of things where we're drawing money, additional funds off of, just so that we understand, yeah, we're running a deficit, but what are those areas, are there specific areas that where these things where money is being drawn off of for?
So there's a couple of ways to interpret what you've just asked. I'm not sure if you're asking where we're pulling money from to pay the deficit, or what in the deficit is costing more money.
What in the deficit is costing
okay.
them more money?
It's people. Our human resources is the largest expense of this congregation, and I think that our people are more than worth it. We've got the best music director in the entire city, for sure, and the wonderful new minister that we've hired full-time, which is great. Our office manager, Hala, has been with us even longer than Suzanne has, and she is incredibly skilled. Because we have Hala doing our bookkeeping, for instance, I think we've got some of our best account knowledge that we've ever had. She's really on top of her game. And we've just hired someone new, a fundraising coordinator named Lillian. So our staff is expensive, and they are more than worth it. We are very lucky, very blessed to have such good staff. Yeah. So that is the largest expense that we have other than rent. So donate more. Yes, yes, yes. Donate more. Join the investment club, the investment committee. Find out how to invest, and then donate it. Yeah. Is there a question, Allison? Okay, sorry, Moira.
Okay. I was curious what Van City's approach is on the Global Equity Fund in terms of the U.S. investments, given what is happening and, you know, I guess political considerations, tariff trade considerations.
Yes.
Do you know?
Well, that is why they launched a low volatility fund. The low volatility fund was launched in August of 2024, so it's now been 1 year since it launched. We've been looking at it since the spring because we've all been aware that we're going to be experiencing a lot of volatility out of our American investments. The low volatility fund was interesting to us, but we didn't have enough performance data to be able to ascertain whether or not we should change our investment composition and include the low volatility fund. Once they reached 1 year and we were able to see the 1 year performance and compare it against the global equity fund, it was almost a no-brainer. We had a unanimous vote from the investment committee to go ahead and diversify into the low volatility fund and just provide a little bit more security to our investments. It's hard to say what's going to be happening in the United States. Our investment manager at Van City is still very bullish on U.S. investments. But the performance, the numbers are very clear that the volatility produces these big spikes on the performance chart. And right now, we're at the low end of one of those spikes. The high end, we hit a peak with on those spikes back in June or July, and we will climb back up and hit another peak probably sometime in the next 3 or 4 months. But it's that up and down that is really hard for many investors to be able to manage. I know I find myself staying up a little bit later at night sometimes, a little bit worried about what's going to happen, and that low volatility fund just gives that extra level of security.
I just wanted to clarify my question. I appreciate the thing about performance, but also just, some people's attitude has been, we're not investing in the U.S. at all. clearly that's not Van City's approach. I suppose they're just using the same screen that they've always used for everything else.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
That's right. They
Okay.
haven't changed their investment philosophy.
Right, okay. And then I had one other question, which was, and maybe this is verging into finance, and I know this is an investment meeting, but it sounds like we're in a little bit of a conundrum in that the investments have done so well that it's kind of covering over this problem that we have at neighborhood where we're not contributing enough to support our operating budget. And I don't know how much the investment committee wants to say about that, but I just like, it's a bit of a conundrum. And if it actually was manifesting and it's like, we're losing capital, like,
Yes.
that's very clear. That is a problem that is urgent. And this is sounding like it's maybe less, it could be seen as less urgent. And if, are you concerned about that?
That's a good question. And from the perspective of the treasurer of the organization, it is, of course, it is a concern. We've been blessed that we have had the performance out of our investments that we continue to appreciate in value in our investment portfolio, despite the amount of money we're pulling out of it. And that's very, very good to see. But there's no guarantees that we're going to be able to enjoy that kind of performance year after year after year. Personally, I feel as if we, not only do we need to work on increasing the number of donations, and therefore the number of members in the organization, but I also believe that we should scale back on the aggressiveness of our investment portfolio. And I'm not speaking for the whole organization, because this is really something which is my own personal concern. I would like to see more of a focus on preservation of capital. However, our investment portfolio, our investments do align with our investment policy statement in terms of our risk and our diversification. And my own personal ideas around preservation of capital are something that I do try to encourage the investment committee to join me with, and they're very good about debating with me on those points. So I believe that we reach a very good balance, and we're always looking at how effective that balance is. So, for instance, our investment policy statement is up for review by the investment committee over the next 2 months. And one of the issues that I'll raise with them is, do we have enough in our GICs? Do we need to increase that portion of our investments? And the GICs, we saw from the charts, they don't produce those really great returns, but they're very solid in terms of preservation of capital. So that's an issue which we will discuss in the investment committee as this year winds down. Does that help?
Yeah, it sounds like you want to get more sleep.
I do.
Which is
Indeed.
completely understandable.
If I could, Nancy, I just want to ask a quick question that pertains to the low volatility fund, just while it's still fresh in our minds.
Yeah.
I think, maybe wrongly, some of that volatility might have had to do with currency, and I think that the Canadian dollar has weakened against the US dollar, certainly early in the year it did. Do you know whether there's a component of that low volatility fund management that's currency related?
That's a good question, and I don't have clear details on that. I mean, we've got some fact sheets on the low volatility fund, which I can share with you afterwards, that can provide a little more detail. What we've really seen out of that particular fund is that there's more of an emphasis on blue chip stocks, and that is where the low volatility element really comes from. Yeah. More questions? I love it.
Well, as co-chair of the Social Environmental Action Committee, I just wanted to thank the Investment Committee for sharing this info and for the care for our full mission statement and shared action. And we do want to discuss further, I know that was postponed a bit, but things like Amazon, my reaction is, let's get out of them. I can't stand Amazon, especially what they did in Quebec. But I do appreciate the balance, too. It's like you not only have the traditional things between, risk and stability and income growth and preserving capital, but also trying to do that for our congregation while being socially and ethically responsible. So it's an added amount of work, but it's something we need to do to share our values. Thanks.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Nancy. Oh, I see Bruce has a question as well.
I've got a comment from John.
Okay.
So I wanted to share that.
A comment from John, who's with us on Zoom.
So John made the comment that a goal of preservation of capital would mean less volatility, but lower long-term returns.
That's correct, yes.
So
Yes.
I guess he just wanted to make sure that was clear. And
Yeah.
since I got the mic, is it okay if I ask a question?
Yep,
Just as a
please go
member?
ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess my question is, given the situation that we have right now, what are the longer-term implications, say like 10 years out from now? Let's say our investments started to earn, half of what they're earning right now. Where would that leave us over year, looking at about 10 years?
That's a good question. So our the current value of our portfolio we've seen is about $4 million. And our operating budget here never exceeds 400,000. It's normally somewhere between $250,000 and 300,000, depending on what our membership looks like and what our financial responsibilities are each year. And if we just looked at that, our $4 million investment would fund things for over a decade before being completely drained. And I don't expect that this congregation will be in deficit for a long time. I think maybe 2 years, we should get pretty close to seeing a balanced budget. But those are all, I'm fairly optimistic by nature. And I think we've got a great location and a fantastic new minister, and that's going to bring more and more people into the congregation. Once we've hit maybe 200 members, we should be able to sustain ourselves just off of our donations every year. And then that would mean that more of our investments can stay in our investments and can continue to grow. As they grow, we will unlock other opportunities for this congregation to start affecting real change in our neighborhood, in our city, in the world.
Just a follow-up question. Can you give us a sense of how have donations been growing year over year for us of late, and what is the trend?
Yes, I can. So donations have been growing. At the moment, our donations are at just around about 95%, 96.32% of where we expected them to be at this point in the year. So we're a little bit below the projections. However, our projected donations, those are raised every single year. So this year, for instance, we At this point in the year, we were expecting to have $42,000 in donations, and we've received, that's from receipted donations, ones where we actually know where the money's coming from. Someone has written their name on the envelope, or it's been an e-transfer or something like that. So we expected to be at 42,000, and we're at 41,680. So very, very close, and that's as of the end of August. It's in our unreceipted donations, the anonymous ones in the collection basket, for instance, that we've seen we are below where we thought we would be. We thought we'd be over $3,000 on that level at this point in the year, and we're just about $1,800. So that's what's dragging us down. And I'm not quite sure if that's because we have fewer people coming in the door who have never been here before, or if we have more people coming in the door who've never been here, and they're actually writing their names down when they're giving us a donation. So our donations are up from where they were last year, and they're up from where they were the year before, and I expect them to continue to go up, especially now that we have a fundraising coordinator who is helping to drive that. Thank you. More questions? Yes, Keith.
You may have already touched on this, but I have been reading in the news that it's very likely next year there'll be some kind of recession or whatever. And I wasn't 100% clear if that were to actually happen. What's the plan? Is it just to increase the deficit or go into some kind of debt? Or, I mean, there seems to be a large enough buffer that you can do that.
Yes, there is a large enough buffer that we can weather those kinds of economic storms. The move into the low volatility fund is an action that we're taking specifically to counter that weakened economic state that's being forecast. However, there really isn't any tried and true way to stay in investments that have got high levels of return while you're also safeguarding your main capital, which is what, that's the point that John just made in his comment. So yet another reason why I've been personally thinking I would like the investment committee to move towards more preservation of capital. It does mean lower rates of return, and when we're going through a recessionary period, that's going to be magnified. So all of these elements are up for discussion in the investment committee, but the main plan at the moment is this move into the low volatility fund.
If you don't mind a follow-up question. So I'm a relatively new member here, and I know, assuming things remain stable, it wasn't clear. You mentioned a couple of times about increasing membership and donations, but in the time I've been here, I've pretty much memorized 90% of the faces, and it's the same faces. So I love the services, but this may be out of your domain, but how does one actually go about increasing memberships? Because I love it here, and I'm sure there are people that have never even heard of Neighborhood.
Yes. That's a very good question, Keith. Now, that doesn't actually apply to the investment committee. However, as treasurer, one of the elements we had been budgeting for this year was a communications campaign, which was to take place this fall, which was to include postcard drops in all of the neighborhoods around here, promoting Neighborhood, introducing the different staff members, and essentially advertising our congregation to the immediate community. And that communications plan has been put on hold. Part of the reason that's happened is because we are undergoing a change in our staff. Julia, I think everyone's aware, is leaving in December. And so one of our postcards would have been introducing our Director of Lifespan Learning. And now we are in a position of transition with that. So our communications campaign that was to take place this fall is now being shifted towards the winter and the spring, most likely the spring. And it's those kinds of communication campaigns that bring more people into the building and will hopefully contribute to a growth in our membership. Does that help? Yes, you're welcome. Any other questions? David?
I can speak a bit to that because I'm on the membership committee.
Great.
Okay. It's during the summer usually is a very slow and quiet time here at Neighborhood, and it's usually during this time of the year and into the winter that Neighborhood has traditionally had its upticks of membership. On November 1st, we're going to be having a new members orientation going on, and that we're looking at right now. Currently, we have 8 potentially new members that are going to be joining that. We're hoping 12 to 15 people will be attending that event, and we're looking to do something again in February as well. So there is interest in our community, and we go in ebbs and flows here with the cycles of the season, and usually, like I said, you're usually going into, like when you joined, you just came into the congregation just as we were troughing in membership. So it usually builds up around this time of year, and I can just say as a member of the membership committee, we've noticed quite, there's been some significantly newer faces that have been popping in here probably in the last month and a half or so, you know. It's growing. The word is getting out, and people are starting to recognize it, and with that will come opportunities for higher income along the way.
Yeah.
So anyways, it is happening.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Any other questions? Well then, thank you everyone for attending and for participating in today's presentation. And if any other questions do come to mind, please reach out to us by email, invest@nuuc.ca. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yay. Okay.